This episode of the podcast is brought to you by our partner, Audible.
Yes, it is. So we are partnered with Audible. That means that if you are looking just to check it out, you don't want to put your card in and just take the dive. You can get 30 days for free on us. If you go to audibletrial.com/JATG or click the link down below, you'll be taken there. You can sign up for 30 days for free and just test it out. Like there's a lot of stuff on there that you can get for free, a lot of Audible exclusives. But what I really like about Audible is that out of the hundreds and thousands of audiobooks that they have, if you decide to purchase something, that is yours forever. Like if you decide not to carry on your subscription or you want to take a break or whatever it is, you can always go back and listen to that book whenever you want through the app on the internet. Doesn't matter because it's yours. So once again, you can get that for 30 days for free on us if you go to audibletrial.com/JATG.
Should be streaming live, or if not, we are soon there. Happy Mother's Day out there, everyone. All you mothers and caretakers, everyone that God, you guys just do all the hard stuff all the time. And you are the family's universal lubricant. No perversion intended. Even though Greg's giving me a funny look.
Well, I've never heard that.
Like your wife isn't the water between the
sure
you
the glue they're important.
so not
no, of course she is.
Okay, well, I mean, there's some people that aren't that, they're not that, and like I think I'm more the lubrication between my daughter and my wife from
okay, I didn't quite know
where I was going. Sorry,
I didn't know what was getting lubed, I guess.
Okay, all right.
Sure, yeah, no, and that's definitely my wife.
Moms always seem to be the ones that are keeping everybody together. It just, universally, I should say. So happy Mother's Day out there. That long story short, happy Mother's Day.
What we're trying to get to is
yeah. All right, Johnny and the Greg are back again. Thank you for listening. If you guys could, please share, subscribe, thumbs up, all that fun stuff that really helps the algorithms with YouTube, which we are trending higher than usual. I don't know what we're doing differently. Maybe it's because we're not there every week versus every 2 weeks.
How long have we been doing this now? How many years? I mean, it's been. I don't remember when we started.
Since Gwen's
4 years. Okay. And I remember when we started. It was like you were doing some research and they're like, you need to do this every week for 6 years.
Yep. And
before you reevaluate and decide if you want to move on with it or not.
Pretty much.
So maybe we're just starting to click. Maybe that's
actually it's funny you say that, man. Like we had 0 views on YouTube for a very long time. And now all of a sudden we had like 10 and now it's like 20, 25.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the hell is going on. I think we've had better shows than what we've had recently, but yeah,
it's kind of the same. I mean, and I'm talking to people a little bit more like people have found out that I have a podcast.
Right.
And so they're like, you have a podcast? I'm like, I do. I mean, I don't make a big deal about it because we don't have a studio. We don't have, we don't have a booking agent to get us like really cool guests. Any guests that we get on, we just try to get in contact with and ask.
Pretty much.
But I like a couple, like I've been to a couple conferences and stuff like that. And podcasting, as far as business goes, like internal business podcasting is kind of a big thing right now.
Yeah.
And I remember like the last conference I was in Florida about a month ago. And so I'm sitting in this business podcasting session. And they're asking around, they're like, who here is podcasting at their place of work? And I raise my hand. And who's actually like producing the podcast and like hosting it? And I raise my hand. And then the guy asked, well, who has a podcast like outside of work? And there was like other hands going up, like for the other questions. Who has a podcast outside of work? I'm the only guy who raised my hand. And so then they're like, we have one person here that has a podcast. So I was like, oh shit, they're going to call on me. And they totally did. They're like, what's your podcast? And I'm like,
there you go. Free plug.
Johnny and the Greg at johnnyandthegreg.com. We're two upper Midwestern middle-aged guys that just kind of talk about stuff. And they're like, well, what got you started? And I'm all of a sudden I'm being interviewed about our podcast in front of a room about 100 people.
Like,
and I'm like,
can I hit record?
yeah, I'm like, can I record this? Because I've never been interviewed about this before. This is kind of fun. And so, yeah, maybe we should go back, because I know when our hosts where we host is Podbean, and Podbean can track where these hits are coming from. So maybe we go back and track that.
To the
state. Yeah, to the state.
Yeah.
We were always
gotten a lot more popular in the U.S. other than the obvious states, like Illinois and Wisconsin is still the strongest, but starting to get popular in Georgia.
Okay.
Of all places, which is fine. That's great. We
used to get really excited every time a new country would pop up.
Oh yeah, there was a time I used to love it.
We're just like, oh, we're in Italy. Who do we know in Italy? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. So, but anyway, that's not why we're here to talk about how popular we are now. How have you been, man?
Doing okay. I'm right now. So if you're chatting within the yet, I can't see it. I'm trying to get there. It was a kind of a weird day a little bit. I'm okay. I'm not going to go totally into it, but like my emotion, I had one of those moments where kind of the husband / dad fight instinct went way up, and it came down.
Fight with your kids or fight with?
No, I want to go fight somebody else.
Outside. Yeah. Okay.
Outside of my immediate tribe.
Okay.
Clan. I was ready to unleash at least a verbal tirade on somebody.
Real quick, hang on, Greg, before you continue. I don't know if it's just on my side or if it's everywhere, but right now we are experiencing some glitches in the matrix. So hang with us, folks. If we get disconnected or it's choppy, I apologize. We'll try to figure this out.
It is totally John's fault, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm just going to point that out.
It might be definitely my fault. So go ahead. All right, you're ready to hurt somebody.
Yeah, I was, and it ready to, like you get, and we just can't do that anymore. Like in our society, I'm going through some. My church is doing some in-depth, they're called hot topics. They're just talking about things. So one of the things they were talking about is in our current society, and like men in general, or the way men have been engineered. If go back 50 years or more, and if you're walking down the street and if a man had an issue where he wanted to be violent, like get into a fight kind of thing, that was acceptable,
right? Like
it was like, oh, you want to get into a fight, okay, or if you had a reason to, like if you were
where the term "boys will be boys" came from.
a little bit like if someone insulted your mother or your wife or your children or whatever it was, those Dems fighting words was very much a thing, and to the point where if you didn't do anything about it, well, what do you mean you didn't do anything about it? What was wrong? What's wrong that you didn't go, throw down with somebody who wronged you that much?
Right.
And now we've gone the other way with it, and like you can't do that, and it was like if you didn't do something 100 years ago, 50 years ago, whatever, if you didn't have that reaction, people wondered what was wrong with you, and like you need to go talk to somebody about how to be a man. Right. And now if you do something like that, if you do have that altercation, that's where you need to go to therapy, because you have some anger issues and you need to work that out. So it's we've done a 180, and I don't know what's right or wrong. I know the way the creator designed people to be, and whether you buy into that or not, it's just how people are engineered. But we have shifted. Society has shifted.
Yes.
And so I was stuck. Hold on. I was just stuck about an hour ago. It's been resolved without me doing anything, but like that emotion doesn't just be like, oh, okay, we're good now. Like I don't function that way. Like it's going to take me a couple hours to
calm down.
Yeah. So this is good because now I get to not think about it and I get to like
Yeah.
be on stage for a little bit and force force good emotions and chemistry into my brain being here with you and talking to the people at home,
Right.
rather than dwell on what happened.
That's interesting because there's a part of me that feels it it needs to be brought back in our society. I think you'd have a lot I think there's something within a man and a woman
Mhm.
as well where they need to get out aggression.
Yes,
Now, I
that's
don't
true.
know what avenue you want to, and I'm not saying that's a reason for you to go and pick a fight, but I
Mhm.
am saying that I think, and I am thousands of credits short of my psychology degree. So this is just stuff I've thought about and listened to, and just my in my own head. I think a big part of our life is it has been taken away from us in terms of who we are, like in ourselves, like that animal instinct that needs to come out. I feel it needs to
Sure.
come out every now and then, and I think because
Mhm.
we don't have an avenue as well as we used to,
Correct.
we've built up anxiety,
Yeah.
and it's like we don't know where to throw this energy, and so we internalize it,
Mhm.
and we get like
It
this, and
it
then
was it was fantastic when I was training in martial
yeah,
arts
I was gonna say,
because
do you miss not having that?
oh yeah, two times a week I
Yeah,
could go and just beat the tar out of a bag.
yeah,
And it was controlled because if you're uncontrolled you're going to hurt yourself. And
yes,
so I was in a controlled environment, I was
yep,
in a safe environment.
yep,
My instructor, who became a very good friend of mine, he could tell, like, if I had a bad day at work or I had something
yep,
go on, he's like, okay, here's what we're going to do today. We're hitting chest day. I'm like, what do
yeah,
you mean? He's like, we're going to do 150 push-ups at a time,
yeah,
multiple times. And I'm like, well, that'll do it. And then you're just so focused on whatever, and you're tapping into like something primal.
right, yeah.
You're
You
just
get in
exhausting
yourself.
yourself.
You get in
Yeah,
yourself.
you're
Yeah, yeah,
so I mean, I do miss that. And the thing is, I still have the equipment like in my basement. I could go beat up on a bag,
right.
but there's something to be said about being with a group of people that are all okay. Yeah, we're gonna beat up bags together,
Right.
and
Yeah.
you're like, okay, cool, let's
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah. I'm the same way. But I see. I know where my avenue is. I know where I can throw my aggression at,
Hmm.
and it's just basically, like you said, it's working out. It's doing something physical, making me do
Yep.
something physical to where I'm in the moment and I'm in myself. I guess that I don't know how else to say that, but I'm in the moment. I'm in myself, and then after that's gone, whatever was bothering me, I can look at it with a clearer head. And
A different objectivity.
yeah,
And
and I think people are seriously missing that.
mhm. And for me, like, now that I'm older, it doesn't have to be like intense physical exhaustion. I
Right.
mean, there's that option there.
Yeah.
But even, I mean, even like building like a Lego set,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, is therapeutic enough
Okay.
that I can sit down, I can click, I can get everything put together. And then at the end, I'm like, okay, like I've decompressed enough
Yes.
that I can start to objectively look at things and maybe approach a problem if it needs approaching again.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. But so what do you guys think out there? Anybody that's listening to us throughout right now live or throughout the week, just in case you guys don't know, and we are getting more popular, we do a live podcast every Sunday at 9.
Yep.
I would like to say every Sunday. Sometimes it's a Monday, sometimes it doesn't
Because
work
again,
out.
because again, this isn't our full-time thing.
Yeah. So, but for the most part, we like to be live on Facebook where we like to communicate with the people if they have good ideas, share some thoughts. But I'm throwing it out to you guys. Do you feel like there's something missing? Do you feel like you're missing that
Yeah.
avenue? Like I could see if I was a cop, like your brother, like I'd
Mhm.
like to go to a shooting range and get that
Yeah.
out. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Or something like that. So, do you think? I don't know. Do you? I definitely think men are becoming nerfed and I don't know really who's to blame for that.
See,
I'm not
there's a danger. Here's the other thing. So I'm leading a group right now, and we're talking about these hot topics. And there was one young man in my group, and he is early to mid 20s. Like, he just graduated with his bachelor's. I don't know how old he is
okay.
specifically, but I'm going to say early to mid. And as we're talking about this actual topic, he went like in a different direction. I was like, oh, this is a little dangerous. Like where he started talking about like him and his group, like his group of friends were talking about like he said the term like red pill, blue pill.
Oh,
So to me, when I've heard that in reference, it's to very much like the toxic masculinity, like the
yes,
Andrew Tate followers, where it's
yes,
just like, oh shit, no,
yeah,
that is not what I'm talking about at
right,
all.
right,
And so yeah, there's you can take that to another extreme where you're talking about like, well, men don't have the same outlets that we used to, but some of that's okay. Like some of that was just toxic, and how the world got screwed up is because men screwed it up. I mean, there's better ways to deal with some issues. And no, I don't, for an instance, believe in pretty much anything that Andrew Tate's followers are a part of, and like ownership of women
right.
and
Yeah, oh, yeah, none of that shit. No.
some of that stuff. I'm like, oh, you guys are so off base.
Yeah,
So
really off. Yes, thank you, Greg, for clearing
so
that
when
up.
you talk about like men being nerfed, I'm like, yes, but be
Yeah.
careful with that because we have evolved as a society as well.
Right. Yes, I'm not saying that we need to. I don't know, but do you remember when you were a kid and you heard the first time somebody got sued for punching, and you were like, "What?
Mhm.
You get in trouble for that?"
I don't specifically remember when it happened, when I
Right.
heard about that, but just the litigiousness of our society that we're so quick to sue people, and you're like, really, you're gonna like people threaten, I'll call my lawyer, and you're like,
Yeah.
really, you're gonna call your lawyer on that? I have a friend who's a business owner,
Yeah.
and there's a he's a home builder.
Yeah.
There are certain things he's like, hey, we finished your house, you're living in said house,
Yeah.
you owe me like 80 grand left on the tab for us
Yeah.
building your house. And they're like, no, we're not going to sign it over. He's like, what do you
Yeah.
mean? Like whatever that process is, they were holding up that process
Wow.
for a reason where they're like, well, you didn't do this. He's like, yeah, you weren't contracted for that. Well, but we want that. He's like, what? That's a different, you need to pay off your contract if you want us to come in and build
Like, the
something
last thing I'm going to
else.
do is do something else now for you.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
he's like, we didn't agree on that. That's not what's in your contract. You need to pay us for what's in your contract. He's like, well, I'll just get my lawyer then. And my buddy's like, okay,
Okay. Yeah.
get your lawyer, and your lawyer's going to go, no, you need to pay him. Like that's,
Yeah.
this is what you've agreed to. They've kind so that's where people are too quick to be like, oh, I'm going to call my lawyer.
Yeah. Yeah. Or when they don't want to take blame for them for what they did, like that
Yeah.
guy. That guy
Yeah.
not taking responsibility for his actions, and thinks he can get out of it.
Here's a good question. Do you know a lot of people that actually have like a lawyer on speed dial? Like they have someone on
Their
retainer?
own personal one.
Yeah.
Yes, I know one guy, and it was funny
But
because
okay,
hang on. He called the lawyer before he signed the podcast to get on here.
oh really? Okay.
Yeah, he was at the house, and he's like, "Hold on, you want me to sign something?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's just a release form so I can put this on there."
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Hold on a second," and he pulls it and he calls his lawyer, and he goes, "Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I want to read this to you." And I'm like, "Are you really?" He's like, "What happens if
Okay.
I don't sign it?" I'm like, "Then we don't do a podcast today."
Yeah. Let's have a
So,
beer and we don't do a podcast.
yeah. So,
So one guy out
Mhm.
of probably the hundreds of people, one guy.
Yeah, probably.
And that's I mean, I know a couple more because they're business owners, but like I don't know anybody that has a personal lawyer like on a retainer
Yeah, no, I don't
to be like, I'm going to call my lawyer, and they
I'm
know,
sure we have a mutual friend that does. I'm sure Aaron does.
but that's a business lawyer though. Like what I mean,
I
and
can
maybe
see
they
Aaron
can
having
hover.
both. I can see him well,
Maybe,
maybe he's
maybe.
using it as the business and for I don't know.
Well, that's it. I mean, a
Yeah.
handful of people, like, but for the
Right.
most part, like if I told you, you know what, I'm going to call my lawyer. I'm a lawyer.
Yeah. Yeah, I
I
wouldn't.
mean, I know who to call, but I don't call
Actually,
them my
I
lawyer.
don't know who to call. I
I
don't know
mean,
who I would like. What would be like? I don't know what would like. Let's say, I don't know. A guy won't pay me. I don't call a criminal lawyer. I call a
right.
civil issue.
It's
Is that
civil, but
okay?
but lawyers like specialize in stuff. There's
Right.
real
That's what I'm
estate
saying. So I
lawyers,
wouldn't
there's
know
civil.
what I would know to call a lawyer. I wouldn't know what it falls under.
Yeah. I would call like the one guy I know and be like, "Hey Andy, I've got an issue." And he goes, "That's not my kind of law." I'm like, "Well shit, can you recommend somebody then? Because I don't know who else to call."
Okay. Yeah, but so to answer your question, not really.
Hmm.
So is
So
that
I mean, I hear people like you see clips of people like, "I'm gonna call my lawyer," and I'm like, dude, I don't think you have a lawyer.
Yeah, I see what you're driving. I don't think
Yeah. I'd be like, really? What's his name? Give me his card. We'll call him together.
yeah, yeah. Anywho, have you
Yeah,
got Guardians of the Galaxy?
it did. Yeah, I saw it
Did you
twice
see
actually.
so twice, so it's good enough to see twice.
It is. Yeah, I saw it. I did my private screening with my
Yes.
people. So I did that on Saturday. My daughter had to work, and so
Okay.
she wasn't able to see it. So then on Sunday, she's like, "Dad, can we go? Can you take me to go see Guardians again?" Yep, it's that good. I would go see it again.
Awesome.
I would say, well, and I have said that this is the best MCU movie since the last Spider-Man movie. Now, I don't know how many
Okay.
movies that was ago. Um,
I think two,
but
three.
I've enjoyed it. I enjoyed it immensely. I think it's got the most amount of heart than any of the other Guardians films and a lot of the MCU films, actually.
Good swan
Um,
song.
yeah, it is.
Okay, good.
Like it's in the Guardians, even based in the comic books, the Guardians is the name of
The
like a
group.
group. They're like the Avengers, so they
Right.
can rotate out their roster, and that's what happens. So at the end of the film, they've got two cutscenes. It's cool. One mid credit, one at the very end. So stick around if you go see it. And yeah, spoiler free, but it's good.
Yeah.
It deals a lot with animal experimentation because it's more of like Rocket's
Right.
story.
Right.
Um, and so that is a little tough to watch at points.
I
Uh,
heard PETA was like bravo, James Gunn.
well, yeah, and rightfully so because they're like, this is what animal experimentation looks like, and you do see that in the film where there's to the science fiction type extreme.
Yeah.
There's like a walrus that has, instead of legs now, he's got wheels.
Um,
So, or I think she's a bunny, and a bunny with like mechanical spider legs.
oh,
And these are characters you can see in the preview, so I'm not like giving anything away. And it's all this type of experimentation. The high evolutionary is the villain, and um he's trying to speed up evolution to make perfect creatures.
mm,
And that's
his
part of that's his thing. That's how Rocket, went from a raccoon to Rocket.
right.
And so you're seeing that process, and then it all kind of comes to a head. So
Okay. All right. So it's good though. It's good. That
yeah,
makes me
yeah.
happy. So is that the best trilogy? You got Cap, you got Guardians, you got well, you can't say Thor anymore. Thor's a foursome.
Yeah. Um,
You know what I mean by that? By the trilogy? Like
I'd call it a second. I'd call it a second. Um, Trailing Captain America. Because
okay,
to me, every Cap movie is good. Like
I agree.
I love First Avenger. Winter Soldier is fantastic, and Civil War was good.
Yep.
Where Guardians, I love the first Guardians film. The second one, I was like,
Take
like
or leave it. Yeah.
it didn't hit me quite as hard. I mean,
Right.
if it's on, I might watch it, but it's not something when I'm searching for a movie, I'm gonna be like, let's watch Guardians 2. Like I'm
Right.
not
Yeah. Right.
but the third one was like they bookended it very, very well with the
Good.
first.
Good. That's good.
And
To
the soundtrack for this one dips into a lot of the 90s stuff, which was right in my wheelhouse of like being a teenager listening to that.
You know,
So
it's funny you say that. I've been listening to satellite radio, and I'm listening to nine on nineties or something, or the 90s.
Mhm. Yeah.
Bring me back to just everything in the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that hit pretty hard.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, good. That sounds great. I watched on Netflix The Mother with Jennifer Lopez.
Okay. How was
Probably,
that?
probably nobody knew he was even going on.
I can see the picture of it in my head, but I don't
Out of
I,
all of the Jennifer Lopez movies I've watched, this is probably one of her good ones. Like,
Really?
and I can't remember. You can't say that about a lot of her movies. A lot of her movies, you just kind of like,
Are not great. Yeah.
they're not great at all. But this one kept, my wife and I were watching it and we were into it. And I'm like, okay,
Okay.
not bad. So it's interesting. It's a very interesting, it was one of those good ones, I would say. She's a, she never really, she dives into a certain part of her past, but you don't get the idea. You get the idea she's actually a bad person that becomes a
Ooh.
mother, and
Okay.
she uses those bad things to save her child.
Is it? Do you remember Long Kiss Goodnight with?
Yeah.
Uh. Uh.
Yes. Charlize
Oh
Theron. Not Charlize
no,
Theron.
no,
Gina Davis.
no.
Gina Davis.
Gina Davis. I'm like, I was gonna say Gina Torres. I'm like, that's not her name. Gina. That was a great film, kind of along those lines where it's like she becomes a mother, but
Yeah.
then
But
snaps back.
it's not like those lines at all. This
Okay.
is different. So, but I know what you said. That is a good movie. I gotta rewatch that one. Yeah. I gotta rewatch that
So
one.
I did just post a link down below if you're on our Facebook page. If not, if you're catching this on some of our other streaming options, you can see it in not LinkedIn, our link tree. The list of things I've watched so far in 2023. I'm just keeping a running record of things that I've watched, and it's on our IMDb page,
You have a
so you
number?
can check that out. What's that? How
You have
many
a
things
number
I
on it?
watched?
Yeah. You have a number, like,
We're up to 49 different titles.
and it's only May.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And what's the last thing I got on there is we're watching Silo on Apple
Okay.
TV.
Any good?
Oh, it's fantastic. Great
Yeah.
science fiction.
Okay.
They are 3 episodes in. They premiered with the first 2 episodes and the third one came out. Really into that. That's been
I
great.
I like Citadel.
Citadel's been good. Yep,
Yeah.
that's on there as well. And I don't think you have Peacock, so I don't think you can
I do
watch
not
this
have
one.
Peacock.
But there's one called Mrs. Davis. It is
Okay. You told me about this.
Yeah, it's weird. It's put out by the same guys that directed Endgame and
The
Infinity War,
Russos?
the Russo brothers. Yeah.
And they got their paws.
So it's a very weird, like it's not what I thought it was. I thought it was going to be like a woman who's a nun or became a nun, but is really like a secret agent, and
Okay.
that's not it.
Okay.
But there's some supernatural things happening, but there's a thing where they call it Mrs. Davis, and it is an artificial intelligence that everybody's plugged into, and they do it all through an earbud. And Mrs. Davis as a intelligence is trying to get our main character Simone to go on an adventure and do some things, but Simone's also like,
So is it a
go ahead.
good artificial intelligence?
It's it doesn't, well, you don't know what its agenda is, but it's got everybody trapped in, like, they're trying to earn their wings. So like if you do what the AI tells you to do, it will award you with wings
Kind of
and
like
like
Eagle
little,
Eye.
yeah, like little virtual, like you hold your phone up to somebody and you can see that they've earned their wings, and you're like, oh well, that person is almost like an influencer now. And
Oh.
so it is strange, and it's hard to explain the premise of the show, but
Yeah.
I'm so sucked into it. It's been really
Okay.
good.
I've that's interesting because lately artificial intelligence, like the whole idea of that has been like mainstream. You got
It's
Elon
everywhere.
Musk and like these very smart tech guys going, maybe we should pull back a little.
I'm doing a lot of research for my job of like how we can capitalize on things like ChatGPT and some of
Okay.
the AI image generators, stuff like that. And it is nuts what, if you're really good with it, what you can accomplish with it
Yeah.
is, it's pretty cool. And
Ursula's kind of doing the same thing right now with her systems.
yeah,
Seeing how she goes, she was telling me like, Johnny, this what this can do is
yeah.
like, how is
And
that?
people are thinking, well, it's going to take jobs away from people. I'm like, you still need someone to prompt it and make it work, because like the stuff I get out of it isn't perfect, but
Until you
it's
don't.
pretty powerful. Yeah. Well, maybe. And well, that's the thing. The AI is only as bad as it's ever going to be today. It's only going to improve.
Yeah.
So
Look, I am one of those people that I am scared to death of AI. Scared to death.
yeah.
And I've had people, experts, not experts. I've had someone who is you actually know him, Henry. He was the one that helped me
Oh
really
yeah.
set this up. He just graduated and he's like a computer programmer engineer now. He's got a job with Google.
Cool.
Yeah. So good for him. He is he kept telling me, actually he told me 4 years ago that AI, it'll never happen like that. And now
Hmm.
I asked him another question and he was like, I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Is,
So I
is he
mean,
is he at Google in California, or is he at Google like in Austin or
Seattle,
something? See,
Seattle.
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So um anyway, it's AI scares me to death. I don't like the idea of it. Just because one day it's going to sit there. I think one of them one day is going to actually sit there and go, you know what, you guys have fucked up this planet enough.
yeah.
This will simply solve it.
Hmm.
I don't know if that enslaves us or that kills us or that just says you are no longer in charge of your lives or whatever.
Maybe.
I'm just whatever. I don't think I'll have to worry about it, but Gwen might.
Yeah, maybe,
Mm.
maybe.
We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, AI scares the hell out of me. It's only a matter of time before it's who's the AI that are always fighting the Avengers? Ultron?
Ultron. Yeah.
Yeah. It's only a matter of time before Ultron's walking around. What do you think?
I don't know. I don't. I still see, because the research I've done and the people I've listened to, they're like there's still safety. Like it's not self actualization at all.
Not yet.
It's combing, like what Chat GPT is doing is it can only it's only educated itself up to like 2001. So not to say that that's any small feat, but all it's doing is combing all of the internet pages, taking, like Google does, like when you do a Google search, you know, how do um I did a Google search, how do I remove a stripped out deck screw?
Right.
And it came up with all these sites
Yes.
that say, okay, here's how here are options for you to removing a deck screw. And all Chat GPT is doing is it's looking at those sites and then putting it into a text paragraph form of like, rather than you go click over there, here's a summary of these points. And I go, okay. I mean, that's not, to me, that's not
No. No, that's
actualization.
not but
It's
I'm not talking about that AI.
it's using what's called a whole language model. So what it puts out back to you seems like it's in a conversation.
Okay.
Um, so like for work, I did a podcast where we were interviewing some people about what is it like to work in an environment where you're surrounded with people who are just not like you. Either they're different personalities, they're different races, different creeds, different backgrounds. Like, how do we in a multicultural society make sure that we're integrating well with our coworkers? And so I my list of panelists that I had, but you got to come up with questions to ask them, right? And I
Yeah.
went on Chat GPT. I'm like, okay, pretend you're a podcaster and you're going to do a podcast about working in a multicultural society. Your guests are A, B, and C. What questions do you ask them? And it spit out 10 questions. And I was like, those are pretty good. And so I copied them and
So why do you
doctored
need to think?
doctored them up the way I needed them to do. It just made my job so much easier. And I was like,
I
okay,
know. That's what
okay.
I'm saying. Yeah.
But I got a
Hopefully
lot
it's gonna be like, never mind, Greg. I got the podcast. Don't worry about
it
it. I'll ask them.
I got a lot more done that day
Yeah.
because I didn't have to take an hour and think about it, or I didn't need to go research other interviews or
Right.
podcasters that are
Right.
asking these same types of questions.
Right.
It just said, here's 10.
Yeah, and it wasn't going to a website, right?
No, what it was going to,
Like Google will send you to a website.
right.
You
No, it
have
was
to.
what it was doing was looking at those websites for me and say, we're going to condense it down into these 10. What do you think? And if I said, can you make it a little bit more professional sounding? It would say, okay. And then through the language model and just knowing how English works, it
That's
did
nuts.
restructure some
That's
stuff, did some
nuts.
synonyms, and then said, here you go.
Yeah, that's nuts.
So you still have to have the input. That's where I think the human factor comes in,
Right.
is you need to have
And
that input.
look, I think we're in the infancy stage, and I just when you got the head tech guys of these mega corporations
Mhm.
not trying to push it more, but saying maybe we should take a step
Yeah.
back and just think about this.
Right now, I think
Okay,
we're on the
there's there's some things coming down the pipe. Or finish your thought, and then I got to ask you another question. Go ahead.
Well, it's very possible they have more information than me on this topic. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Maybe.
I think we're on the cusp of like the Star Trek computer, where you say, computer, what is, and you ask it a question and it would go, okay, and then it would spit out some data to you.
So not Kit. From
not Kit. No, not Kit. More like I said, the Star Trek Next Gen computer, where they could just ask it a question and it would tell them an answer.
It would just tell them. Yeah. Do you believe that I don't know if this is conspiracy theory or not, but do you feel the government like has advanced technology that they're not sharing?
Absolutely, they do.
Okay,
yeah.
All right. So
yeah, and we talked about that a couple, like when these militias, or what the Second Amendment advocates that are like, I'm keeping my arsenal in my basement, in case there's ever an uprising.
Right.
And I'm like, you don't know how the military works. Like, this is let alone the personnel of the military. They have technologies,
right?
Not even violent ones, or not even ones that are going to kill you. They could just delete all of your files. Like, you live in a digital world. Like, your bank account, that money doesn't mean anything. It's all digital. Like, they could take all that away. All of the information that you have on your personal computer, they can get to it. Like, they've got their own military hackers or patriotic hackers, whatever you want to call them. They can ruin you without ever having to point a weapon at you.
Well, so what's funny is they were talking about how everybody is so scared of World War III in terms of like nuclear bombs and stuff.
Right.
What they're saying is World War III will probably be on the tech side, where it'll be like
a virtual.
Yeah, like like you said, shutting down an entire infrastructure, doing something.
I heard of one company today, and I'm not going to say the name because as soon as it was brought up in conversation, the person that worked there, her husband brought it up. And she's like, we're not supposed to talk about that. So I'm not going to say who it was. I'm not going to say the company, but they got ransom hacked, which is a group of hackers came in, hacked their system and said, give us this amount of money before we turn your stuff back.
And they have to give it.
They have to give it, or their own tech people need to hack the hackers.
I know somebody that got ransom hacked and they paid it.
Yeah. I mean,
a company that did that.
And some of them do. I mean, you hear about these things. And I think it's going to be more that kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think
it's going to be pointing firearms at it.
But the reason I bring this up is because my thought was, I think, like, you can't tell me the NSA doesn't have a highly advanced AI system in there somewhere.
Right. Yeah. No, I think they've got things that we would consider to be science fiction.
Right. I did hear that. Remember that guy Bustamante? You actually sent me something on him one time, and I ended up following that guy. I forget his first name. I always remember his last name because but he used to be a CIA spy.
Oh, right. Yeah, that guy.
Okay? Mm-hmm. He said, the guy that was interviewing him on a podcast said, "Can you tell me, do you guys have like James Bond type stuff?" And he goes, yes and no. He goes, you'd be surprised how simple the stuff is that we have, but how cool some of it is. He goes, can you tell me one of them? Like, do you have like a wrist laser? And he's like, no, we have nothing like that. He goes, but we do have a key card that can open up any lock in any hotel in the world. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Which he goes, that's cool. But
and that's
the technology that the government has to have for our like protection, because they can't let it out there. But
I think it's stuff like that is definitely out there. I wouldn't be surprised if there is maybe not an Iron Man suit like you're thinking of an Iron Man suit, but do you remember the Tom Cruise movie where
Edge of Tomorrow?
Edge of Tomorrow, yeah.
Almost like those mech things, like solid,
like a hydraulic powered mech suit. I mean, even just looking at the design in that film, you're like, that's not far off. Like
Yeah.
some designer said, we can do this
Yeah.
and created it. And you're like, I wouldn't be
Oh,
surprised if they're working on something like that.
that could be just something from the scrap yard or something they tried.
Well, they've got those. I mean, you wear them on your fists, but they're big wind turbines, and you see people like doing
Oh,
them
yeah,
for
you're right.
fun. It's
Yeah.
like this is the new jetpack, and you see some dude flying around like Iron Man.
Yeah.
I'm like, you can't tell me that the military is not looking at that going, how do we use that? Is that viable? Can we?
How do we pack that in here?
Well, yeah. Well, even like how loud is it? Can we sneak into places with that? I
Yeah.
mean, what do we
Yeah.
got to do here?
Have you actually ever heard or talked to anybody, Greg, that has, because when they tell me that like I read a lot of the espionage books and I don't know
Mhm.
how much is real and how much is just for the book, but I keep hearing on in movies and I keep hearing in like documentaries, how quiet are some of these helicopters that can sneak in the middle of the night?
Um, I
Do you
again,
know
I
anything?
no, not
No.
not
Okay.
not firsthand knowledge.
Yeah.
Just like what I've seen on like the History Channel, or when I catch something like sometimes you get the military channel in a hotel, and
Yeah.
you're like, ooh, um, they're quiet, but I don't think it's so quiet. Like if they were outside your house, that you're
Couldn't
going,
hear. Well, okay.
yeah, I don't think it's that quiet.
The reason why, and please, if anybody's listening, please send us something on this. I want to know. But I was sitting there with a friend of mine. I'm not going to name his name because I don't want him to seem, but he was in the military.
Mhm.
And I said, Zero Dark 30, when they came down and they're like right there at that house, I'm like, how do they not see? He's like, oh, they wouldn't have heard it. And I was like, are you shitting me?
Well,
He's like,
then
no. He goes, no, they
that's
wouldn't have heard it. He goes, that stuff that what those tier one operators were using, he goes, no one
mhm.
heard them. I was like, oh
that
my God.
that would be news to me. I mean, because
Yes.
I don't know how that works. I
Yes.
did just find out that one of the pilots of those helicopters, this is weird you bring it up. I was talking to a guy yesterday, is from Wisconsin.
Oh,
Did his time in the military, did all that,
yeah.
worked for a
You
police
get him on the
department.
podcast?
I don't know. I'd have to. I
Well, did
learned
you
this.
meet him or did you just hear about
No, I we're buying a patio set off of Facebook Marketplace, and
it? Oh,
it was the guy selling us the patio set. You know me. Like I met a guy at his door to buy a patio set, and an hour and a half later, I'm leaving his house because we've been talking that much.
yeah.
And our wives were out too, so that just like doubled it.
Right.
But he's like, oh yeah, one of the guys, the helicopter pilots that did that. He's like, did you see that movie? Did you see the scene where I'm like, yeah. He's like, one of those helicopter pilots this guy went to high school with in Arrowhead High School here in Wisconsin. And then the guy, you know, did some college stuff,
Yeah.
or like did some military stuff, did some, bounced around, like he went into the Navy, and then he's like, now I want to be in the Army instead, and I want to learn how to fly, or what, however he bounced around.
Yes.
He was that pilot, or one of those pilots that did that mission. And then when he retired from the military or left the military, he became a police officer in like Burlington.
No kidding.
Yeah.
If you can just Facebook that guy, just privately YouTube, and just say, hey, we were talking about something on our podcast. We want to know if you
I'll
know
see.
if it's real or not.
I mean, he knows the guy. He knows his name. I'll be like, can he?
I want to know how quiet
that's
they are.
that's the other thing. Can he talk about some of this?
Oh,
Because
yeah, that's true.
I mean, that was SEAL Team 6. So like a lot of what they do is classified. So
when we first started getting this and we were getting guests,
Mhm.
I ran into a guy at a party of a mutual friend. We know him. Actually, he's part of my family. We all went up to
Yep.
Green Bay. Okay. So he was there. And I'm talking to him, and he's like, he's telling me that he does this private stuff, like private contract work. And I'm like, dude, can I have you on the party? He's like, no, can't talk about any of it. I'm like,
Yeah.
you can't talk about like your training or nothing. You can't just say like what's real, what's not. He's like, nope, can't talk about any of that. So it was like, I was like, oh, I just want to talk to you all day, but I can't, you can't say anything to me about it.
Well, I found this out, like not that far away from me is, I believe it's an FBI station house that is.
What do you mean, like a black site?
Yeah, it's a black site.
Okay. Okay.
They're in an industrial park. I don't know what building they're in,
Yeah.
but post 9/11, or at least they were. Maybe they're not there
Yes.
anymore. But
Probably not now if we know about it.
yeah, this guy was doing contract work, and he wasn't supposed to talk about it, but then he did, and his contract was up, and then he was done. But he was, it was when I was teaching, and this
Yeah.
guy was carpooling with some people, and I heard from his wife that he was like, "Oh yeah, you were carpooling." And then one time he was like, "Oh, I was working at the FBI black site." Say, come again? What
Yeah. Where?
what are you talking about?
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh yeah, there was like they're over in this business park. It's like an unmarked building, but it's all FBI stuff." And he was doing technology defense,
Wow.
like post 9/11. And I was like, "Are you supposed to be telling me this?" He goes,
Yeah.
"No, not at all."
Yeah, not at all.
Okay.
In fact, I need your ID right now.
Well, yeah, and that's, I mean,
I gotta find. Well, they're gonna find you if they need to find you.
luckily this was now mm, probably, how long ago was that? 10, 12 years ago, at least,
Oh, okay.
that I was talking to him.
Switch them.
So it's been a while. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I don't expect the FBI is gonna,
What
show
where
up and
would
go be
you
like, "Can we
go
talk?"
if you had to bug out? Where would you go?
I don't know. I'm kind of talking to my kids about this because they were watching some post-apocalyptic type movies.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Dad, where do we go?" I'm like, "We die. Like, we're not that fit. We're not that skilled. There's just no." If it's what we were watching 30 Days a Night. That's what we were watching.
Days of Night.
30 Days a Night, the vampire film.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's not
but
very apocalyptic. That's why I was confused.
well, but it's a town taken over by.
Yes.
So they were like, "Hey, if something happens, zombie invasion," I'm like, "We're dead. Like anything that's going to like wipe out humanity, we're done." If it's just like breakdown of society, I said, "We're going to have to try to find people who know how to do things."
Yeah.
Like we're going to go make friends with a farmer is what we're going to do, and be like, "Hey, can we homestead with you?" And then we're going to learn how to farm, because that's the only way you're going to learn how to live.
Right. Yeah.
I said, we don't have those skills now.
Yeah. There are a couple of people I think I would piggyback on to bug out with.
Yeah.
Or I've talked to some people like, hey, if shit ever hits the fan, can I take my family and bring them up there? So I've just you hear some scary stuff out there, and with news now, you don't know what to believe and what not to
Right.
believe, and
Yeah.
and so it gets your mind in a unfamiliar place, and so the first thing you think of is like, oh shit, what if I got to bug out? Am I prepared to bug out? Hell no, I'm not prepared to bug out.
No.
I don't think I would say 90% of America, the people, the Second Amendment people, they're ready. They've been waiting for it.
Some.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I know a guy, my buddy Dan, I know he's got bug out bags in his basement.
Yeah, ready to go.
Like for each of his, like him, his wife, each of his kids, like they have one, and he goes through, he upgrade, like as the kids grow up a little bit more, he's like, "Okay, you need this now." So he's, let's say, fairly ready, maybe. I did know a guy, Rob, out in.
Is he a prepper?
I wouldn't call him a prepper. I really wouldn't. I mean, he's got some safety stuff kind of ready to go, but I wouldn't quite call him a prepper. Okay. I know a guy out in Vegas by the name of Rob. Went to high school. He moved away like halfway through high school. And when I found out he was out there, we went out to Vegas on a vacation. My wife still had some contract work to do, and I was like, "Hey, Rob, I got some free time. You want to hang out?" So he and I reconnected. And he shocked me at first because he was driving like an Isuzu, like some kind of SUV. Mm-hmm. I think it's what it was. Maybe I could be wrong on the model, but so he's like, "Yeah, this, I like it. It's good, but I think I need to trade it up and get something American made, because like when I need to bug out, like I need something that I can find spare parts for easily." And I was like, "What's that now?" Yeah. What do you mean? And he's like, when the world goes to shit and society comes crashing down, and I'm not going to stay in like the Vegas area. It's way too populated. I need to head like up to the mountains somewhere. And so you need to have a working vehicle. and you need to have something that as your vehicle breaks down, you can find spare parts for easily. And I'm like, oh, you've put some
Oh,
real thought into this.
yeah,
He's like,
yeah,
oh
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
He's
Wow.
like, that's why he learned how to shoot. That's why he learned how to do archery. That's why he learned how to do it. He's like, if it ever happens,
But
I'm
you just
prepared.
brought up a good point. How many people, when they're thinking of bugging out, have thought about what vehicle they need to take, and
Right.
they
Yeah,
know how to fix that vehicle?
exactly. And
Yeah.
that's where I'm like,
How
nope.
many people are like, yeah, thousands of people yeah, I know how to shoot. I know how to shoot a bow. I know how to hunt. Yeah, but do you know how to fix a carburetor?
Nope.
Yeah,
I don't know how to replace it. And ammunition will eventually run out.
yeah.
And so that's why he's like, well,
And you can't
I,
YouTube it.
yeah. He's like, I picked up archery.
Like the
Like,
apocalypse, you can't YouTube it. Yeah.
so, and it's stuff like that. I was like, well, he's pretty serious about this. And
I
he's a great
I
guy.
didn't
And
even
I,
think about being a mechanic. I didn't even think about learning mechanics
no,
skills. But
no.
yeah, you're right. You gotta think about that.
And I don't have a single vehicle that could go off-roading. Like,
Yeah.
I
That's
think
a
we
lot
would
harder than you think it is out there.
exactly.
I'm
Yeah.
not talking about you. I know you know. I'm just saying to the audience, it's a lot
If
harder than you think.
I think I would have to head south because,
Think south? I think everybody's heading
you-
south. But
well,
yeah, you're gonna die in the winter.
yeah,
Yeah.
surviving a winter here when you don't know how.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a home with a fireplace in it. So I mean, you got to figure that out. Like, I can't stay in this house because how am I going to burn stuff to
Yeah.
even stay warm?
Yeah. That's true. Yeah, you'd have to go. I think most people would have to go down south, which means
Mhm.
everybody would be down south.
Yeah, there would be a sci-fi film did this once of it was everybody's so worried about border control
Yeah.
with Mexico, and they're like, nope, it is like Mexico shutting down its borders because of the American outpouring of people trying to illegally get into Mexico and South America, because like northern United States is not where you want it to be.
Wow. Yeah, I've heard people say, "Yeah, I'll go to Canada," and I was thinking, yeah, that'd be a good idea if you know how to hunt, fish, and survive in the winter.
Yeah,
Yeah, you got to
I
learn all that stuff.
you, I survivability for me and mine, I would think like Gulf of Mexico because you can fish. And I mean, yeah, you got to deal with hurricanes and stuff like that and figure some of that stuff out. But, you know, I maybe that would be the place to go. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
We'd have to find a commune of people that, know how to do stuff. And then we're going to just
be
learn
part of the
from there.
continent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're gonna just learn from there.
yeah. Well, hopefully, we never get to it.
Yeah. Hope not.
Yeah. So, but you know a couple of army buddies. You could
But
hitch onto them and hitch on
I
them
know
with
some
that.
people and it'd be
Yeah,
like, can we come with
yeah. Can
you?
we come? We won't eat a lot.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've thought about even just like getting like I see them online where you can buy like a 500-day food supply of, I mean, it's not MREs, like
Right.
prepackaged stuff, but it's almost like a protein powder,
Right.
like where they're like, this has vitamins, minerals that you need, and there's 500 meals in here. And you're like, okay, maybe
Okay.
we should.
Won't be the best time, but at least
Yeah.
yeah, at least
And I've thought about that just on the occasion of like, oh, if there's a tornado and we're stuck in our basement for an amount of
week,
time.
yeah, a week or something like that while you try
Yeah.
to carry yourself
Well,
out.
well, and it would be, I think it would be days. Honestly, like around us, there's enough emergency,
Well, I think the
things like that.
CDC has said you should have a supply for you and your family for at least 7 days
Yeah, which I don't.
of
currently.
water and food. We have some stuff, but I don't think 7 days. I think we could make it 4, and
Yeah.
then I'd have to start
Well,
figuring out.
and it's not in my basement. I can tell you that. I mean, it's in the pantry. So if the house gets
Right.
blown away,
Blown away. There
so
goes.
does everything else.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. How about we switch to something happy?
Maybe. Yeah. You want to talk about that?
I do actually. I want to ask a quick question before we head out. So there's a popular radio show that I listen to in the morning, where they were asking the hosts on there, who's your favorite athlete? Most people were saying Michael Jordan, Walter Payton, Chicago people.
Yeah.
One
Yeah.
guy said secretary. And I went,
Secretariat, the
yeah. And I
horse.
went, the horse? Like I was
Yeah.
thinking to myself, the horse. And the guy goes, the horse? And he goes, yeah, great horse. And I was like, they accepted it, but I'm having a very hard time how that is an athlete.
Well, it's an athletic horse. I mean, I don't think that's the spirit of the question, but
But that's not an athlete. I know people
I
will actually argue with me. I bet you Farrah will argue with me. I don't see how a horse is an athlete because
um
Ham could be a hell of an athlete if he knew how to apply it.
I think if you break down what an athlete is, like what are the qualifications of an athlete,
Yeah,
the horse meets
the criteria.
probably most of that. They train, they have a controlled diet, they're earning money based on their skills. I mean, and this is just off the top of my head. So I can understand why they would say we'll accept it, but that's certainly not the spirit of the question.
What are
And
you looking up?
I'm
Are you
going to
looking up?
chat GPT and I'm going to ask them to define an athlete,
Oh, nice.
and we can have fun with that.
Yeah. See what it says because I am very curious. I can't wrap my head around the idea that it's an athlete. Like it's a horse.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's like if you're riding, like, are you saying a cheetah's an athlete because he's on the Serengeti every day training to eat? Like, I guess
But is he
training
though?
versus, huh?
But is he though? Like training, or is he just trying to eat?
Oh God, isn't that training?
No,
That's not preparing.
no.
Keeping yourself at a certain.
But because the cheetah is not preparing, it's always hunting. Like it's
Well,
you can't say it's an athlete if every day is game day,
well, wait a minute though. Wait a minute. Well, why can't you?
because then there's no workouts involved. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I would think sprinting to get your meal is a pretty good workout.
But that's that's the game.
I'm not. I don't see how that's
Like
not athletic. Or I'm sorry, we weren't talking about athletic. We were talking about training. Okay.
let me see what they.
I'm just saying, if you're going to call a horse an athlete, you got
Yeah,
to call, I don't know, an elk that runs from its hunter an athlete.
yeah.
Maybe I'm
Sorry,
thinking too much into
this
this.
is. I'm having issues signing in on this computer.
That's all right. Athlete definition.
Well,
A person. Thank
yeah,
you.
Google defines it as a person.
Who is proficient in sports and other forms of physical exercise. Okay, so I'm sorry. I would give the jockey the athlete.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't give the horse. The horse to me would be like I don't know, the tool that you use.
Yeah, I mean, I understand both sides. Like, I understand why they took that as an answer, but I wouldn't have. I would have said it had to be
Why
a person.
is a horse considered an athlete? Help me out there, anybody that's
I so we have a mutual friend who we play Dungeons and Dragon with, and
okay.
like his sister does dog agility competitions. Like she trains dogs for these agility competitions.
Okay.
And I think she would certainly argue that her dogs are athletes.
Okay.
Now,
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
like, and I put in there, can an animal be an athlete? And it's, Google came back with, yeah, they're called animal athletes. Like there's a qualifier in there.
It says here, take it from someone for whom horse racing has been a passion for 38 of his 54 years. Race horses are indeed athletes. Their innate desire to avoid danger and injury is overruled by the intense competitive spirit which burns within them. The same as, so they're saying they're competitive.
I have heard that, like, they can feel a competitive nature.
Okay, so what this guy is saying, and I don't know who this guy is, but he's saying they will ignore they will ignore danger or a possible injury to win a race. So like
Okay.
if they're racing, they'll feel something that like, hey, if I keep going, it's going to break, but I got to beat this guy.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, along the same lines, I asked Google, can an animal be an athlete?
yeah.
And it came up with a definition from the American Heart Association that defines an athlete as one who participates in organized team or individual sports that require regular competition against others as a core component and places a high value on excellence and achievement, requiring some form of systematic training, usually intense.
Okay, so then yes, then that's an athlete. Then the horse is an athlete. So would be a dog in a frisbee
Yeah,
catching competition
sure. Yeah.
or
Now,
a those dog training things like how the agility drills.
yeah. But
Okay,
again,
all right.
again, that wasn't the spirit of the conversation. I mean, they wanted to know who your favorite human athlete was.
Yeah.
You so the question remains, do you have a favorite athlete? Like, do you
Me?
have someone? Yeah, like
Do I?
do you have someone that you
Gosh,
put
good
above
question.
all others?
Famous
I
athlete
don't think I
above
do.
all. Now, mine's a little different because like you have to separate it from the person, just the athletic achievement. You can't put the person in there because they're human and so they're all going to mess up.
So their character is
Yeah,
lacking in
so
some
I
way.
don't think Michael Jordan's the greatest guy. You know what I
No,
mean? I
right.
don't think I don't think Tom Brady's the greatest guy. Like I think when you get to that level, you're not the greatest guy anymore
Yeah.
because everybody's kissing your ass. You're getting nothing but everything of the best is given to you freely usually. It's here, have it.
Yeah.
And I think that creates some sort of
It
I'm better
changes
than
you. Yeah, I think
yeah.
so.
I
I
think
think
it would
so.
have to change you. And so I guess maybe that's what he liked about the horse too, is that the horse was
Well,
never
and that's one of those things I'd be like, well, at least the horse's character didn't like.
yeah, it didn't change it, or
I
maybe
mean,
it did. I
the
don't
the,
know.
the horse isn't going to get a sexual assault charge at
Right,
any point.
right, yeah. Um, God, do I have a favorite athlete all time? I did
I
like
know I
Barry
don't.
Sanders. I did like Barry Sanders.
Yeah, I mean, I have definitely athletes that I liked. I do not have a favorite all time like someone that if you said you get to go to dinner with one athlete, alive or dead, I'm like, I don't know. I don't
Oh,
know.
you wouldn't know that, huh?
I don't think so. I mean, I could pick some people that'd be like this, but some of the people that I would want to see, I
Yeah,
don't know if it would be a fun dinner. Like, if you said you're going to go to dinner with like someone, if I said I'm going to go to dinner with Muhammad Ali, I don't think that'd be a fun dinner because I think he would spend so much time talking about himself because that was his public facing persona
yeah, yeah,
that it would be not fun.
right. I don't think it'd be fun with Jordan because I feel like
Yeah.
everything you've heard, like I don't think you could get it topped. I don't
Did
know.
you did you see that quote that I posted on our Facebook page? Somebody had asked, this was an actual interview, like the interview had asked him,
Oh
um,
yes, no, yes,
do you think like the 90 something Bulls that whenever they won,
right,
like their fourth championship or something like that, do you think the 90 Bulls could beat the Lakers
yeah,
of whatever or whoever the team is?
yeah.
And he's like, or how much do you think you would win by? He's like 2 or 3 points. It's like, really? You think it'd be that close? He goes, yeah, well, most of us are 60 years old. And
I
I'm like, okay,
I
I
think
mean, it's funny, but
that's just Jordan. Jordan, okay, from now I don't know the guy, but from everything that I've heard and read about him, he doesn't think he's ever going to lose anything.
right.
Like there's
But that
never.
at that level, I mean, I think that's valuable to have it at that level.
I absolutely. I think the only person that
Because
believed in Tom Brady for years was Tom Brady.
Yeah. Well, and
know?
like Magic Johnson, when you read about
Yeah.
his early career,
Yes.
part of what made him great is that he didn't think he'd ever lose.
Yeah. But then again, it goes into that balance of, um, it goes into that balance of like, to get to that level, there has to be something psychologically wrong with that person. That
Yeah.
they're only tunnel visioned for that one thing.
And some people call it just that's what winners do, where
Right.
they're just, they're constantly go something. It's like, that's great. Does it make you personable? Like, does
Yeah.
it
Probably
make you
not.
does it make you somebody others want to be around in a non-competitive situation?
But not only that, do you want to be around that guy not because you're going to get the best champagne, but because he's just fun to hang out with and watch
Yeah,
something?
yeah.
You know,
Like, can you hang out with this person?
yeah. Can you hang out with this person knowing that he's not going to pay for you? You
Yeah,
know, like, yeah,
yeah.
like, and so, and that's another
I
thing that has to
so
change you too. If you know that anybody that ever hung around you was just because they wanted to hang around you because of the clout you,
Right. And that's how I feel. That's how I
that
feel a
would
little bit
mess you.
about Dwayne Johnson right now. Like,
Yeah.
I think he counts as an athlete. I mean, because he's doing some stuff.
Yeah.
Um, the like I would have loved to hung out with him. I'm trying to think of a movie like
Okay.
in his timeline of movies, like where would be the point where you would want to hang out with him? Like,
I hear you.
like the rundown, he was still kind of up and coming.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great film, but and so there's like his whole thing is, stay humble and be the hardest worker in the room. Like
Yeah.
that's like that was a quote that he put on t-shirts and stuff
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's cool. That's great advice. I'm not knocking that at all. But the guy doesn't seem to slow down ever.
Yes.
And when he does slow down, it's almost like it's still work. And so you're like, would you want to hang out with him and have a good time? I'm like, does he ever slow down and have a good time? And what does that look like?
Yeah. Good point. Yeah. I think, I, I, yeah, I don't think you'd want to, I think you're right. I don't think you'd want to have a dinner with
Yeah.
any of those people.
We actually, this leads to another question that was interesting. What was brought up at the Mother's Day lunch today that it was my wife and my kids. We're sitting there and we're, just trying to make conversation around the table, get kids off their phones kind of thing. And I came across a post that's, I'm like, okay, let's answer this question. Name a celebrity that shows up in your driveway and says, get in the car, we're going. Who do you feel like you could get into that car with and be like, I don't know what we're gonna do today, but this is gonna be fun. Or like, let's go do it. Who do you get in the car with?
Keanu Reeves.
That'd be a good one. Like
I think it'd be a great one.
you're either gonna do some fun stuff or it's public service and maybe it just crosses over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
That'd be
yeah.
good.
I think it's kind of funny as you get older. Like if you would have asked me this when I was in high school, I would have said
Mm.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh,
I loved the guy with it back then.
yep.
If you would have asked me this when I was 20 and you first met me, it would have been
Oh, Will Smith for sure.
Will Smith.
Yeah.
Now I don't care to even remotely look at the guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when you're older, it's like I really appreciate everything I've heard about Keanu, how long he's
Yeah.
in the business,
Yeah.
how he's as it sounds like he's as humble as he can be. So that would be my guy.
Yep.
What about you?
At the table I said Weird Al.
Weird Al. Okay.
Yep.
Junior high Greg. Who you going with?
Oh yeah, junior high. Okay, let's
Optimus
go.
Prime.
Yeah, let's go back to 7th, 8th grade. Like, who would I? Trying to think of like what celebrities I was into at that point.
Probably Arnold, right? Wasn't every boy in it either Arnold?
Yeah, I mean there were those guys like Stallone, maybe.
Yeah.
I know it. Dean Cain would have been on that list.
Okay, I know why.
Lois and Clark. I mean, Superman was
I
huge.
get it. I get
I
it.
wouldn't do that now. I wouldn't
Yeah.
do that now.
I would hang out with Chris Evans.
Yeah, Chris Evans, like if he pulled up and
Yeah, I would hang out with him. You know who I bet you is really boring in real life? Just boring. Ryan Gosling.
Maybe.
I
Yeah.
bet you he's just boring. I bet you it's like you see that one Friends episode where he's hanging out with Ant-Man. I forgot the guy's actual name.
Oh,
Ross and Ant-Man are hanging out,
yeah.
and they have nothing to talk about. And so they're playing, that becomes the gag. He's like, "His good beer, yeah, 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 it's good beer." And they just sit there and they don't know what to say to each
See,
other.
like, I think about it now, like Paul Scheer. Do you know who that is?
No,
Um,
just tell me.
well, he's got a podcast called How Did This Get Made? And you've seen him act in other stuff. Like he's one of these actors. I can bring him up.
Paul Scheer.
Paul Scheer. This guy, if it's coming up.
Oh yeah, I see him.
Yeah. Like
Okay.
either of these two. Like
You'd hang out with?
I mean, well, if the woman pulled up too, that's his wife, Junai Raphael. She's less into some of the geeky movie stuff, but
Yeah,
I would love to just hang out with that dude.
hang out with that.
Like he'd be fun to talk about. Or even my kids went like the Critical Role cast. Like if they rolled up, and I'm like some of them, yeah. Like if Travis
Rogan would be
Willingham,
fun. I think.
wouldn't do that. I
You
don't
gonna hang out
know.
with Joe Rogan? I think he'd be fun.
Well, again, I'd be starstruck enough and be like, there's a celebrity in my driveway and he wants to hang out. Oh, sure. But yeah, I think he and I would probably have a difference of opinion on what some stuff that'd be like, this isn't fun anymore.
But no, but he wouldn't be. I don't think he'd be the type to where, unless that's a persona on his show. But he seems
Yeah.
very open to the idea. If you wouldn't agree with him, he'd be like, "Cool, let's talk."
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think of other celebrities. There is a guy in the CrossFit industry that I really like, Rich Froning. I think he'd be
Oh,
fun.
yeah. I've heard you mention him before.
We almost got him on this damn podcast.
Oh, yeah. I remember you were working hard.
Almost did. I was so excited, and I was thinking, oh damn, he won't join.
I forgot their names off the top of my head, but they had a reality show for a little bit. It was like 4 power lifters, and one of them was the guy that played the mountain, like he was in the show. And like it's that level of powerlifting, like world's strongest man competition kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And watching
Magnus for Magnuson and shit like that.
Yeah. Mark.
God, I used to watch those. I used to watch those shows, and when ESPN had nothing going on.
Yeah, and it was. They did like a world travel show where they went to different countries and said, what are the great feats of strength that this country is?
Yeah, I've seen those.
And it was fun. I'm like, and watching these guys just kind of goof around, I'm like, they'd be fun. Yeah. I mean, and maybe you go lift some heavy stuff every once in a while, but they're not going to want you to hurt yourself, because that was the big thing of like, they were always safe.
Yeah.
But they just had so much fun with each other. I'm like, that might be kind of fun to hang out with those guys.
I don't think that'd be true. I think once I think, Greg, after a little bit, you'd be like, all right, can we talk about anything else but weightlifting? Like, is there
but it didn't seem like they talked about weightlifting the whole time. It was like, maybe
I think when that's your life,
maybe. Yeah.
It's kind of hard to deviate from it.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. I mean, we're talking like, I don't want to, when you talk about celebrities, I mean, like if Weird Al did pick me up, like we got to have an agenda, or else I'm just going to want to ask him about his music and his life all day. And I'm just want to talk to him, and he's going to be like, I don't want to talk about myself all day.
Yeah.
And I think that
Keanu, like, you can go on a plane, you can go on a motorcycle, you can go on a cool car, probably take you shooting.
I just saw a thing. He was on a plane, and like a couple got on, and they told the couple like, hey, we're out of overhead space. You need to check your bags, kind of deal. And they're like, it's, $50 a bag. And because you're already on the plane, they're like, $50 a bag. It's got to be cash. And they're like, we don't have any cash. Like, what do we do? And they're like, well, you need to figure it out, because you're not putting your bags on the plane. And Keanu happened to be on there. He's like, I got it. And he just stood up and like paid for their baggage to get checked. And like, I mean, to him, $100 is a drop in the bucket. But I mean, like, for anybody to be like, I got it.
I heard Shaq does that too, though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He would be one would be fun. Yeah. He would be fun to hang out with.
Yeah,
like,
he would be.
He is like the stuff you read about Shaq, and he's kind of a cartoon in certain ways.
Yes.
But to hear what he has done, like, he purposely, like, his shoe brand, like, people were
Yeah.
offering him like the Air Jordan,
Yep.
like, level of shoe deals.
Yep.
And he's like, no. And
Yeah.
he put his shoes in Walmart.
Right.
And even when his agent's like, you could get so much more for these shoes, we could do it. He's like, no,
Yeah.
because his shoes have put more inner city kids or kids that can't afford the
Yeah.
Jordans, and they're made almost exactly the same. It's the same level of quality of shoemaker. But he's like, I'm going to keep them cheap. We're going to mass produce them so more kids get to play basketball.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a dude.
That's
He's
a cool guy. That's a cool
Yeah.
guy. Yeah. I agree.
Oh, Marshall said Hugh Jackman would be fun to hang out with. Yeah, if
Oh,
Hugh Jackman
would
showed
be
up,
good. So would Ryan, but maybe I don't know. Maybe you after a while you're like, Ryan, shut up, dude.
maybe.
Like,
But actually, I'd go the other, like, maybe McElhenney. Like, if he showed up and be like Ryan McElhenney, he's
I
like,
think actually he'd be fun.
I mean, it's like Ryan Reynolds' partner in crime now,
Right.
with Wrexham and everything else. But if he's like, hey, want to go to a soccer game? Sure, I know dick about soccer. Let's go.
Yeah. I'd be like,
I know.
No, I'm good, man.
No, you wouldn't. If Ryan Reynolds showed up in your driveway, be like, hey man,
It
do you want
wouldn't be me I'd worry about.
hey man, would
I
you
don't know.
like to go to a soccer game? I mean,
I'd be
you're
like,
gonna be
no, but my wife would adore it. Like my
Mhm.
wife would go. Like, no, man.
That'd be interesting.
See ya. Red Notice. You have to do all that shit during Red Notice.
Yeah, like, if someone, like, I want an agenda, like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna pick you up and we're gonna go get wings. Cool. Like, we don't have to worry about anything else. We're just gonna go get wings and hang out. Awesome.
Yeah. So, all right, man. I think we'll end it there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're good.
All right, man. Do your thing so I can do my thing.
Oh, well, first off, there may or may not be a show next week. I got to see how my schedule is going to go. I am leaving Saturday morning, early Saturday morning, to go to a conference next week.
Cool.
And the conference starts on Sunday, which usually they don't, but this one does.
Yeah. Where are you going?
San Diego.
San
So
Diego.
I will be in sunny San Diego, and
We're going to San Diego in June.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Well,
Ursula has to go for a conference, and so the whole family's going.
It's a big conference. Like, I'm going to the conference center where they hold Comic-Con, and I don't, but it's not Comic-Con, obviously. So I'm going to a trainers conference, but doing some stuff, and we'll see if I can, if I can broadcast from my hotel room. Yeah.
A couple pens, a lanyard,
I'll have a lanyard for sure. I'll maybe like water bottles are big right now. Like, I've gone to a couple conferences this year. They're like, would you like another water bottle? Like, can always use another one. So, like, grab that. And yeah. Anyway, so we'll see if we're on next week. But while you're wondering if I will be around next week, just go through your day-to-day and don't be a douche.
There you go. So for the Greg, this is Johnny saying thank you very much. Have a great week. Podcast out. Take care.
See ya.